Folks up there on the reservation.
Sorry. That's her name.
Yeah, she's
Get it.
down to the second.
Yeah. All right. Well, I would like to call this meeting of the Region 6 Go Virginia Council Nominating Committee meeting to order. Take the roll call.
Kim McClellan,
Present.
John Anzavino.
Here electronically.
And we need to approve John's remote participation because his meeting location is more than 60 miles away from his principal residence. So does that need to be voted on?
I think if you just, yeah.
I approve, John.
Okay.
Remote participation. All right. Do we have any members here for public comment?
We do not.
Okay. We have our consent agenda, which consists of just the minutes.
So
So
moved.
we need second?
Yeah.
We're good. We don't need to vote on that, do we, since it's only the two of us?
I think if it's just the two of y'all, we're good.
Okay. Now we are moving on to new business. We have several folks to consider for nomination to the council. So John and I think we both received this packet in advance, so we've seen these names: Pete Humes, Samir Patel, Donna Hart, Ginny Mayturn, and Bruce Lemaster, all being considered to the council. Now, are these filling currently vacant spots?
So
Yes.
they are, we can have up to 25 folks. We are down to 17.
Okay.
16 or 17. So yes, these will be filling vacant spots, but then also kind of planning because you're gonna roll off next
I'm
year.
not smiling.
Lisa's gonna roll off. Rob is basically just kind of hanging around. He's gonna roll off. I don't know how much longer Val's gonna stay in the council. So, you know, even just losing you and Lisa, you know, they're two folks, but I think Rob is definitely gonna move on from the council as well. So
Okay.
there's three that are definite. And I just a little backstory, I mentioned this in the email, and we were talking about this before you came in, but our process really is for folks to kind of, you know, we find folks through network, obviously, or like in your case with like a Ginny, like they're brought to, and same with some of the other folks, brought to us by Jan, by members of the council. And then we kind of push them to the application that we have, which you guys saw, which just kind of gives you something to vet them by. In this instance, we were expecting applications from other folks, but at this point, we only have applications from Pete and from Donna. So
Do we need applications for those other individuals? Because I
no, we
haven't in the past always done that, right?
we don't have it written in our bylaws that it's required for folks to have an application. We don't have that. And in all honesty, in our bylaws, the process from becoming a member is, which we're trying to kind of hone in on, is a little vague. The process is just kind of, we have a nominating committee. You guys do this. Your recommendations go to the regional council. All the other steps before the nominating committee and between the nominating committee and the regional council are not necessarily clearly outlined in the bylaws at this point.
Okay.
Of all of these rules, sorry, John, go ahead.
Okay. I've read the two applications, and I think I know Bruce Lemaster, but the other two folks I know very little about. Can you fill in some of the blanks for me? You know, a little bit on Bruce and then a little bit on the other two before we, you know, even think about talking about any of that?
Yeah, definitely. So, so Samir is a segment leader for, gosh, what's that bank? I think First Citizens Bank, but he's pretty involved. I've seen him in a lot of meetings that the Fredericksburg Regional Alliance holds. We had a really long conversation. I know him professionally from a previous position, and I think that he has vis-a-vis his role, a really good network of businesses that are part of our priority industry clusters. And in talking with him, the bank and he are just really kind of interested in getting more involved in the community. So that's kind of his backstory. Bruce owns a small manufacturing company in the greater Fredericksburg area. I spoke with him yesterday. I've been kind of talking with Jan for a while about bringing Bruce on because we don't have any representation from the manufacturing community. We have in the past, but only from bigger companies like WestRock and then Nestle at one point. But he kind of represents a small manufacturing company that's locally owned and also has applications in IT as well. So it kind of hits on two industries. And then Jenny, and you probably know her better than I do, but she runs I think that she would bring a ton of expertise in the workforce, from the workforce development perspective. That's a little outside of your kind of traditional government workforce development. So now we have the two presidents from the two community colleges. We have Kimberly Young representing UMW, and we have Jackie representing the workforce system broadly. So I think that she probably, will be able to bring in more of a perspective from what private industry is seeing in their staffing issues.
She runs a short-term temporary staffing agency. It was her grandmother's, I believe. And she took it over, and she's also a chamber board member.
So she's very involved.
Very involved.
Yeah.
Yes, she's very involved. We used matron staffing when we needed a temporary worker.
Yeah.
So she's got a pulse, I think, on what's needed, what she sees, where businesses' pain points are, and she's good. She comes to stuff, shows up.
So the outcome of today's meeting, if all these folks are recommended for consideration by the full council, we'll have a little bit more formal information on them in the packet that's for the October 22nd meeting, correct?
Yeah, so what we'll do, I'll talk with them, and for the folks that we don't have formal information on, I'll collect that. And then what we'll probably do is, we send the packet out like a week in advance when we're required to, but I'll most likely send an email before that, maybe next week at some point, and just say, we had a nominating committee. These are the results of the nominating committee. These are the recommendations for council membership that are coming to you all. And this is their backstory, which would be the application. And then I can provide kind of a brief bio on each person as part of that packet.
Okay.
Have all of these people been verbally or email confirmations that yes, they're interested in serving, they would like to serve?
So the only person that I don't have full confirmation of, and part of this is a timing issue because October is our last meeting. So I wanted to get these folks in before we go into next calendar year. Jenny is the only person that I don't have confirmation from. And I spoke with Bruce at length yesterday, and he was supposed to let me know early today, but he said he's pretty much a yes. He just wanted to, I shared when our meetings are going to be and then some additional information on, so he should let me know today.
Well, I think if we're gonna nominate these folks, I think Ginny has a caveat that we do not present her to the council unless we are able to make verbal.
Yeah.
And she might not be, it might not go through, but I hate to put her forward to the council and she hasn't even said she'd be interested.
100%. Yeah. And part of it, I was out sick for a while and then we were out
and John, I just spitballed some names with Ian. These were not people that I had said, oh yes, I know they want to do it, but I had gone to lunch with Curry Roberts and we had sort of made a list of some people that might be interested. Not that they would necessarily all be appropriate or interested, but just names to consider. So if Ginny doesn't pan out, then I think that we need to remove her.
Well, that's fine. And, my thought was, pending the outcome of today's discussion that, all be recommended for confirmation by the nominating committee to the full council, with the exception of Jenny, until we have a confirmation that she's willing to accept the position. And then I had a question. There was some prior discussion about some folks from King George and the EDA being interested. Are any of these folks tied to the EDA over in King George?
No.
Okay, and you say
And they're
that,
not necessarily interested. They were people who no longer had big commitments and might be,
okay,
we thought
Okay.
might be, I don't want to say we, like Ian and I or Sarah and I talked about it, but Curry has said, hey, these people they're local business owners, they're good folks, they're sharp.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know one of them is moving away, so I don't,
They've run her out of town. Yep. no.
Well,
Well, so that won't work.
yeah.
Well, and it just, I try to say this in the most diplomatic way. Really, the pushback was, the George Washington Regional Commission being the support organization for Go Virginia for this region. Our relationship is with the counties. So anything that could create any kind of tension or perceived tension there, we're very sensitive to.
well, there's a
Not taking any kind of stance one way or another on what's right or folks leaving but just sensitive of, being a representative of what the county feels like is its direction.
Yeah, I understood that the King George board was toying with, and maybe they still are toying with, the idea of withdrawing from the George Washington region and being reinserted to the Northern Neck Planning District Commission.
Yeah, and
I
that
don't know.
wasn't related to the letting go of the economic development folks.
Yeah,
authority.
well,
They were-
yeah,
they were
I'm aware of
unrelated.
that, but anything you do with King George is going to be a little bit controversial, touchy, and politically sensitive, particularly with the Planning District Commission. And particularly if you
Sure.
appointed, a couple or one of their former EDA members, the Board of Supervisors seems to be a interesting and somewhat vindictive bunch. And they've already got a burr under their saddle, so to speak, about George Washington.
Well, really from a Go Virginia perspective, we have the council, but we also, in rolling up to the planning district commission, they, in a way, as a support organization, the board for GWRC oversees Go Virginia also.
Oh.
In a sense, theoretically, they have to approve GWRC signing off as a support organization for Go Virginia every year. They have to have a contract that they sign with DHCD.
Yep, okay.
And the board, is composed of 2 boards of supervisors from each of the localities. So that's.
Yeah, I didn't mean to take us off on a tangent like that. I was just curious because I know that they were being talked about, and I wasn't sure it was the best idea.
No, I think it's a worthy discussion for sure.
So for our
Okay.
original, it sounded like John had a motion. I like that.
I know, yeah.
Okay, I move that we accept the slate of nominees to the Go Virginia Region 6 board that have been presented as part of the agenda and discussion today, with the exception of Jenny, and I don't have her resume. Here it is. Oops. Now, with the exception of Jenny, and you can insert her last name. Pending her, okay, thank you. Pending her confirmation of acceptance of the position, if approved by the Go Virginia board on October 22nd.
Second. That was a long motion. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I hope
Okay.
you recorded that.
Yes,
sir.
yes. All right, so moving on to our nomination for the nominating committee. Vernon Green, and Vernon has expressed an interest in becoming part of the nominating committee, yes. That's
Yeah,
why we have him on here.
yeah, Vern has expressed an interest in getting more involved. In yeah, we think that this is a. I mean, I wish that there were kind of like. When folks ask that, I wish that there was a way to, get them more involved, but I think that this is really kind of a good first step.
Okay.
So.
And he's got good availability, Ian.
He does, yeah, he's been good. He hasn't been in the council that long, but he's already been on a few work group calls for
Okay.
projects.
Okay.
And it's really provides a lot of really strong feedback and steers those conversations in a really good way that allows us to fully vet the applications that sometimes we don't get out of those calls. So.
Yeah. Well, I move, we accept Vernon as a member of the nominating committee.
Second.
Thank you. And all of these have to go to the full council for approval, right?
Yeah.
All right, sounds good. So future council member nominations. I think we're pretty good
Yeah,
where we are
I
right
think
now.
we are, yeah, I don't, I think maybe it's a conversation, I think that you and Lisa, was that in April that they roll off?
Mhm, April.
Yeah, I think, maybe, we meet at, another time before then and have a conversation about, what that looks like, get a full understanding of other folks who are rolling off. If there's anybody who's gonna be leaving, like I said, Rob's probably gonna be leaving, don't have confirmation of that yet, but I think maybe early in calendar year 2025, have another meeting and just. It's been helpful, like we kind of had this conversation way back. The last council meeting we had at VIMS about, getting members of the council to bring us folks.
Yeah.
And what we've seen is really, we don't necessarily need that many council members to do it. Really, in this case, it was you and Jan bringing a few folks who are really strong candidates and who I think are really going to contribute a lot and make the council better. So I think it's been helpful though to kind of have those conversations and really kind of contemplate succession planning, even when we don't have open seats. Because we do have folks, I mean, it's a volunteer board, we do have folks who, especially private sector, the public sector seats are kind of entrenched, but private sector, we have folks roll off. We could have folks leave a job. Just how it is. I mean, Linda, she was just kind of, she's basically retired and she was like, she rolled off kind of unexpectedly. So we have folks like that. So.
Okay,
Good.
sounds good.
Cool.
Well, I think we have nothing else to discuss. We move to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay.
Adjourn at 1:49.
Good. Thank you all. See y'all later.